Welcome to Wednesday, the 8th day of November, 2023. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com. Sign up for their daily digital email newsletter. Well, as we head through the second half of the week now, we're going to cool off a bit. The trough of low pressure that came off the Pacific Northwest late yesterday and last night is bringing a smattering of rain and snow showers to some parts of Wyoming and Colorado and the Central Rockies. The high country of Colorado will see some snow showers today, so traveling through I-70 in the mountains, keep that in mind. We all have a few showers on the plains, but really not making those showers go much further than the I-25 corridor. So we're just going to be cooler, certainly going to be more autumn-like. We're not looking at anything cold, but after several days of very mild temperatures, it's just going to be cooler. It's just going to be more as it should be for this time of year. Temperatures through the weekend and into early next week will basically be close to average. But most of the weather action, most of the really interesting weather is going to happen in the long range. We've got a stretch of weather here from today through the middle of next week where there's systems coming through. It's just that they're not going to have much going for them. So we'll have a little wind, we'll have some high mid-level clouds, seasonal temperatures, but really nothing too bad. All of the action is going to be in the 10-plus day range, which means basically late next week. Not much happening between now and then. And we'll show you on the satellite imagery and the maps here going forward what will transpire in that 10-plus day time range. In the meantime, satellite imagery this morning shows a big low here in the northwest part of the Gulf of Alaska. It's just going to kind of stay up there, spin on its heels, be giving stormy weather to southern Alaska and this region up here. The trough of low pressure, which is connected from up here to this cloudiness that's associated right here. This area of cloudiness right here associated with some good upper level energy and that moisture that will slide south into Colorado today, bringing the high country Colorado some snow. But the rest of the West really not going to see much going on. Here you can see this elongated area of low pressure that we just saw in the satellite imagery right here. That big low up just off the Aleutians. But high pressure kind of building in behind it. And that high pressure is going to come in for the rest of the week and into the weekend. Saturday, we'll see a low go across the U.S.-Canadian border. But as we know, when we get into a westerly flow like this, Pacific air will flood the nation. So Pacific air, generally speaking, this time of year is a mild forecast. Not a warm one, but it's going to be more mild as the cold air right now is locked up in the higher latitudes. This low pressure system right here doesn't look like much, but it is going to feed a lot of subtropical moisture into the southern plains. And we're going to see some significant rain breakout in parts of the far south. This is kind of an indication of the El Nino, the warm sea surface temperatures back here near the equator, helping to form sort of a southerly jet. And that extra southerly jet stream forming in the cold season is a sign that El Nino is going to have some impact. And we'll see some needed rain. We'll show you that on a chart here in a moment. And there you go. This is through Monday morning. This is the total precipitation forecast through Monday morning. You can see that moisture coming up out of Mexico and across the southern plains. Those areas could use the rain, and they're going to get quite a bit. Here you can see this all happens right here today. This is today's shower activity with what's left of that trough. The far Pacific Northwest British Columbia onshore flow keeps them wet, but the rest of the West through the weekend, kind of a yawner if you're a weather watcher. There's the snowfall forecast, and again, most of this happens over the next 24 hours, at least what we're going to be seeing here. And if we take a step back through Monday, you can see that heavier moisture coming out of Mexico and across the southern tier of the U.S. Not much else going on elsewhere. Now, longer term, this is where things get a little bit more messy, but also a lot more interesting if you're a weather watcher. By Wednesday, we're in a southwest flow, so that means mild air will flow into most of the central and western U.S. in this area right here. Going to be pretty darn mild for a good part of next week. Above average temperatures will return because of southwest flow aloft, bringing air in from the southwest. But notice the lows here and the change of colors stacked up from the Pacific Northwest all the way maybe down into Southern California. So this is by next Wednesday. After Wednesday, we see a low potentially closing off near the Four Corners area and becoming a closed low and winding up and maybe forming into what could be a real weather maker. But this is not until next Friday and Saturday. And it hasn't gotten near the divide yet, getting close, but not there yet. So we're going to keep an eye on this scenario. We're not exactly sure this is the exact scenario that will come together, but this time frame, basically the weekend after this one, is when we're probably going to see a lot more in the way of colder and potentially wet weather, meaning rain, snow, and falling temperatures, depending on whether or not this system comes together or not. All of this up here, after this heads east, will get cut loose and head back in behind it. So the trends we've been talking about, the end of November being colder, more stormy, more winter-like, remains on the table. Now take a look at potentially the precipitation that could develop with this pattern. Especially look at California, into Nevada, look at Arizona here, parts of southwest Utah, and then we're starting to see moisture get into the areas west of the divide by late next week. This could be some real significant weather right here. We'll keep an eye on it as this is going to be an early season storm for California and a big snowmaker in the Sierra Nevada possibly. And look at the snow even down into the higher elevations in northern Arizona. Again, this is 10 days out, so you got to take this with a grain of salt. But we have to wait this long into the forecast period to really see some bigger changes. But I do expect that these changes, the weekend after this one, will set into motion other changes for the rest of the month and into early December. Have yourself a very good Wednesday. See you tomorrow.